Alright, so today, just coming out, just pretty much thinking out loud. Just gonna go over my thought process with the fuel system, as far as all the fittings I need to order and how I'm gonna route everything. I know I kind of did something similar already, just going over installing the fuel rails and stuff, and kind of the thought process I had at the time. But after looking at it, coming out here the last couple of days, I think I have it really narrowed down to how I'm gonna run the fuel system or the fuel lines. So let's go over to the Elko real fast. I know I want to clean up this engine bay eventually, but just going over how I did the fuel rails on here. This is the return list style, or hold on, let me look it up. All right, so I just looked it up. This is the return style. It has the fuel lines coming up for the feed and the return, both up to the fuel rails on this. The returnless style uses the Corvette style regulator and filter, and that just relocates or pretty much returns the fuel rate when it comes out of the tank. There's a built-in regulator and everything there. But on the Elko, I did run it up the driver's side just because the stock fuel rails were on the driver's side. I know the fuel tank is a little different, and the way it's routed is easier just to send them up the driver's side, then run them up the passenger side where the stock G-body fuel lines are. But on the Monte, it's still going to be, I guess it'll be a return style also instead of the returnless style. Originally, I did order the returnless style kit from our hot rod fuel hose, so I'm not going to be able to use that one. I still have, like I said, the Corvette style filter and regulator. I still have that, and I have all the dash 6 line I ordered with it, but I decided to step it up to dash 8 line, at least for the feed. The return will be a dash 6, so the kit's not going to a complete waste. I'll still use some parts from it. But as far as today, I'm just, like I said, I was just thinking out loud and finally have it narrowed down to how I'm going to run my fuel lines. Kind of got a list of all the little parts I need, but we'll go over that later. I know I said I was going to do the 180 degree fittings out of here and like loop it or cross it from passenger side to driver side and driver side to passenger side into the fuel regulator or fuel pressure regulator, which I decided differently, and I think I'm just going to run it from passenger side to passenger side and do the same thing driver side to driver side, where it'll just be a little bit of fuel lines fuel line between these fittings. I'm just doing that because of space. If I would have had a little bit higher intake and there's a little bit more room under there, I would have crossed them through. But I think if I just do a 45 off of here and a 90 off of the fuel rail and a 45 off the fuel regulator, a little bit of line there, it'd be just fine. And then I have a fitting coming in. It should be in today. It's a 90 degree fitting. Alright, it's a dash 8 orb on a 90, but it's real short because this, the fitting's like this style. For the 90 degree, it comes out too far and it's real close to it's actually hitting the alternator, so there's no clearance. I found a shorty one, so it'll probably be about an inch out of here. It'll leave plenty of room between the alternator and the fuel lines. So I'm waiting for that one to come in, but it'll be the same thing. I'll just cross that over to the fuel pressure regulator on the driver's side. The back here, I'm still debating if I want to do 45 or 90 degree. I just have the dash 6s on there to give me an idea. Eventually they will be swapped over to a dash 8. Just the fittings that originally came with the fuel rail. They're dash 8 orbs, but it's a AN6 line fitting. So I have to order, I believe, 3 of the dash 8 orbs to dash 8 AN line fittings. So it'll be one here, one in the back corner. This front one would be that 90 degree fitting I was just talking about. It'd be a dash 8 orb to a 90 degree AN fitting. Then out back here, I think this will be a 90 degree, but I think what I'm going to do is put one of these fittings in here for the gauges. So I might put that in between there, and then a 90 degree coming off of the back of that side, just so I have something to read fuel pressure with. And I think I'm gonna have 2 of them, because I have the gauge here, and then I have a couple of the low dollar motorsport sensors there. So I think I'll do 1 mechanical gauge and then 1 sensor. Just put it on the other side. There's not much room, so I think I'll run 1 here, and then I might run the gauge right before the Y, so I can see how much pressure's getting in there. But that's just how I'm thinking I'm gonna do it now. I would have liked to do the gauge on top of the fuel pressure regulator, but there's not enough room for it. And then I thought about just putting 1 on each fuel rail. Like I said, the driver's side, it's real close to the firewall if I'll put that extension on there. But we'll see when it comes down to it. So I think I just have to order 1 more of those adapters right there for the gauge, and we'll be good. But like I said, I'm just thinking out loud, going over my thought process with the fuel system. With the Y, I'm not sure if I want to have it down low or move it up a little bit. I prefer it down low, or if I route the fuel line along a little bit closer to the fenders, I might mount it up a little bit higher just to hide it a little bit. Well, not really hide it, just have a little bit cleaner look in there. Because if it's right in the middle, I don't know. And then if I put it up high right in the middle, you're just going to have 1 line coming right down the middle. So it'll either be down low here or just up to the side. So we'll see how that goes. I think I have to order, what is it? I have to order 2 more 45 degree fittings, 4 more 90 degree fittings, and then a couple just -6 spacers or adapters for the fittings. But the way I have it planned out, it would be, grab my cheat sheet. So thinking a 45 on each side of the regulator. I'll need 3 90s on the fuel rails, so 1, 2, 3 on the back corner, and then that one will be a separate one that I already have ordered. And then let's see, once it comes off the 90s back here, it'll be a 45 and a 90 into the Y, and then pretty much the one for the gauge underneath the Y, and that should be it. And then after the Y, I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna go ahead and order a flex fuel sensor just to throw it on there in case later on down the line I want to run E85 instead of just, I think, 91. So that might all go in this area too when I order the 85 sensor or flex fuel sensor. That'll probably be mounted on here somewhere. But yeah, the line going straight down to the back. I'll crawl under here in a second, but it'll probably be a 45 or a 90 degree that comes up from the railing to get to the Y or the flex fuel sensor. So that's kind of my plan so far. Hope I didn't lose you guys too much. And then with all the extra fittings from the -6 kit, when I order that, that'll be for my return line. So it'll be one straight line coming off of the return, and it'll probably go towards the firewall here, and then a 45, and I'll dip down and just run back parallel with the feed line. So that's kind of my thought process up here. I have everything pretty much laid out, which makes sense to me. But it'll make more sense once I actually start putting all the lines on and all the fittings on and be able to just see it all connected. So that's it up here. I'll crawl under the car because I'll go over how I'm thinking about running the transmission cooler also. And then back here, that's kind of how I was going to set in the tank. thinking about getting a little bit of an adapter here just to space this fitting out a little bit more so it's not riding on this hump. And then I might put like a piece of rubber or something so that the fittings aren't resting up against the gas tank and with the vibration and everything rubbing a hole in something. So this whole little S section, I might just put a piece of rubber or something there to have it and just insulate a little bit more. Probably could do some sound deadening, have a bunch of that left around, but we'll see when it gets to that point. But I don't think I missed anything up here. At least not so far. So, you guys look underneath. So, it's always a little darker. And I think under here, when I look at the video, it's a little bit brighter. So, yeah, the fuel tank, I just set back in that area. And I think the lines, I think originally well, it might be a little dark, but there's a little tab here, and I think that's what they mounted to and just ran alongside the driver's side. I'll figure all that out eventually. And once it gets up to the front, it'll probably be around this area that there'll be a 45 or 90 that shoots it up the firewall. Should be plenty of clearance from the downpipe. But if it's a little closer than I think, I might wrap it in some heat wrap or something else. So it's kind of what I'm thinking. And then I haven't gone over this much, but I do have the transmission cooler in there. It might be a little upside down. So I actually sent the company I think an email seeing which one they suggested, because online, you get all types of different answers. So I sent them an email seeing which transmission cooler that they recommend, because I'm doing a standalone transmission cooler. It's not going to run into the radiator. All the transmission cooling is going to be from here. So I sent them an email seeing which one they suggested. They replied and just wanted a couple questions about the motor I'm running, transmission I'm running, the purpose of the car, I think the rear gear ratio, and the tire size. I gave them all that, and then this is the one that they suggested for me. Eventually, when I edit the video, I might throw the part number up on there, or just wait till I actually install the transmission cooler. But this, I'm thinking I'm gonna leave it in the plastic, but I'm thinking I'm gonna mount it right here, pretty much in the driver's side floorboard. That might be a little right in front of the seat maybe, but that's where I'm planning on mounting it. For one, it's a fairly flat surface. There are some ridges in there, but it's fairly flat. And then there won't be any exhaust running on the driver's side. Run the single turbo, so all the exhaust will be on the passenger side. I didn't want to run it too far back here with that spare tire hump. And I don't think there's a whole lot of room on the driver's side, because I think the fuel tank sets off to the side a little bit. So to me, that was the best spot I could think of for me. And then once it's up there, it's a little thicker than some of the remote style transcoilers you see, but with the height of it, it's not hanging too much lower than the transmission pan, so I figured that would be a good spot for it. So make sure I'm not hitting any bumps too fast. It should be good. Plus, I think, well, yeah, it'll be good there. Like I said, I'm not doing anything crazy with the car, but that's where I'm gonna mount the transmission cooler. And then with the transmission lines, like I said, I pointed out when I installed it, I have the banjo bolts on there, so makes it a little bit easier getting an AN fitting on there. You can adjust the angle of them. And I think, just talking to my buddy about seeing if the transmission will get too hot to run the cooling lines underneath of it or on top of it. So I might run them forward a little bit, just route them around the top of the transmission. There's plenty of room up there. I'll have to keep in mind for when I do the steering linkage, not to interfere with that. But I think I'm just going to route them over the top of the transmission and then tie them onto the transmission cooler, and hopefully we should be good there. If not, my only other plan was to run it under this heat shield and either run them towards the front of the car or the back of the car, and then have to loop them all the way back around somewhere. Not completely to the rear, but like this little hump where the brake line is. Might run them along there also to cross them to the other side, but we'll see. And I apologize if it gets a little upside down or sideways, but that's it. I think I need two 45-degree fittings for these banjo bolts, and that'll give me the right angle to pretty much loop them over the top. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just thinking out loud on how I'm gonna run these lines and everything. And they are PTFE lines, so they're good for gas, E85, oil, and transmission fluid. So that's kind of why I lucked out with, even though I ordered 2 kits, I could just use the same lines for the transmission. Excuse me, for the transmission fluid. But yeah, that's it. Let me I'll pretty much go inside and order, I think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 13 more fittings, and we should be good to go. But that's it. I'm gonna cut it off. It's a little bit longer than I thought, just me rambling, but that's it. I'm gonna stay out here for a little bit longer, finally open up the manual brake kit and see if I might have to bend these brake lines back a little bit to get it to work, but that'll be another video.